Chapter 23 of the Sheridan Road Mystery. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Sheridan Road Mystery by Paul and Mabel Thorne. Chapter 23. Sunset. One of the sudden changes characteristic of the Chicago climate had taken place. The wintry chill had left the air before the advance of a soft, warm breeze that blew out of the west. It might have been early spring instead of late fall. Marsh waited outside the music school on Michigan Avenue for Jane Atwood. Presently she appeared, and Marsh was conscious of a quickened beating of the heart as he watched the slender, graceful figure approach. He noticed the becoming flush which spread over her features as she recognized him, and he was certain that no woman ever before had such sparkling eyes and so sweet a smile. "This is a pleasant surprise," she greeted him. "I knew you had a lesson today," explained Marsh, "and the weather was so fine that I thought you might enjoy a walk before you went home." "I should love it," she exclaimed. "I was just dreading the thought of going straight home to that plain little room in the hotel. Hotel rooms never do seem homelike, do they?" "Most of my life has been spent in hotels," returned Marsh, as they strolled toward the curb. "My parents died before I was 20, and since then I have led a roving life." He signaled a passing taxi, and directed the chauffeur to take them to Lincoln Park. Marsh glanced down Oak Street as the car flashed by. The mysterious shadows that hung over the street at night, and the recent tragic incident which had taken place there, seemed almost like a dream to Marsh, as he saw the street stretch peacefully toward the west in the light of the late afternoon sun. Marsh's attention was quickly diverted, however, for at this point the tall buildings, the smoky streets, and the crowds were left behind. At one side began the long line of palatial residences that has brought to this section of Chicago the sobriquet of the Gold Coast. On the other side lay a strip of park, and beyond that stretched the rolling waters of Lake Michigan as far as the eye could see. "This is what I like about Chicago," exclaimed Marsh. "After a day in the hurry and bustle and grind of the business district, you are swept in a few minutes into a region of trees, grass, and spreading waters. At one stroke you seem to leave the seething city behind, and enter into the wide spaces of the earth." "You speak like a poet," declared the girl, "rather than a plain business man." "Perhaps," returned Marsh in a low voice, "it is because of something new that has come into my life." The girl's eyes looked into his for a moment, and seemed to read something there, for she turned with heightened color to look out over the lake. They sat in silence for the next few minutes. Then Marsh leaned forward and opened the door of the taxi. "We'll stop here," he called to the driver. "Have you been in Lincoln Park before?" he inquired as they strolled north. "Only to pass through in the bus," returned Jane. "I think," commented Marsh, "that this is one of the prettiest parks. I presume that those rolling hills are artificial, but they are certainly a relief, after the monotonous flatness of the rest of the city. There is one, just ahead of us, that is the highest in the park. I want to take you there, for it is a place where I have often sat during the last few months, when I wanted to be alone and think." "I believe," said Jane, "that this is the first time you have really told me anything about yourself." "Frankly," replied Marsh, "that is one of the reasons why I suggested this walk today. This favorite spot of mine appealed to me as just the place to tell you something of my story. There it is," he added, pointing across the driveway to a little tree-clad hill. He guided her across the drive, up the winding path through the trees, to an open space on the hilltop, where they found a bench and sat down. "It is beautiful," agreed the girl. Several miles of the shoreline lay stretched before them, and beyond it miles and miles of blue-green water rolled in, to break into miniature waves against the embankment. The sun had nearly touched the treetops behind them, and the gray of evening already lay out over the lake. The distant horizon changed from a deep purplish tint, where it met the water, through many shades until it reached a rich gold, where the light of the setting sun fell full upon the fleecy clouds that drifted slowly far up in the air. "You asked me a few days ago," began Marsh, "about the nature of my business. I did not feel free to talk to you at that time, because I was engaged in working out one of my most important cases. That case is completed, and so is my work along that line. I am a detective, Miss Atwood, for the last 10 years in the Secret Service Division of the United States Government." "How interesting!" she exclaimed. "No, you are wrong," returned Marsh. "I thought it was interesting, but I have found out my mistake. It was a wandering, unnatural life, full of nervous days and sleepless nights. No home life, no family, no friends, lacking all the things that really make life worth living. Miss Atwood, the men who work down there in those great buildings during the day and go to a little home at night to be greeted by a cheery wife and romping children are the most fortunate men in the world. Some of them grow restless at times and may long for what they think is the glamour and excitement of a life like mine. Work such as mine is necessary to the peace, happiness, and progress of the world, but I have come to the conclusion that I would rather let the other fellow do it." "What do you plan to do, then?" the girl asked softly. "Unfortunately, my training has been along one line only, and I must stick to that. But I intend to follow it in a way that will permit me to have a home and some of the things in life which other men enjoy. I have already sent in my resignation to the Secret Service. As soon as it is accepted, I plan to open an office in Chicago to do private investigative work. There is an immense opportunity for this among the thousands of great business houses here. Then I am going to have a home, and," he added, leaning toward her and gazing straight into her eyes, "I want you to help me start that home." Jane flushed. "What do you mean?" she murmured. "That I love you," replied Marsh, as he took her small, soft hand in his. "But you have known me such a short time," protested Jane. "Jane," he said, "I have watched over you for nearly 2 years, when you walked along St. Louis streets and entered shops, when you passed back and forth to your music school in Chicago. I was many times close at hand." She gazed at him in startled surprise. "I don't understand," she said. "My work took me to St. Louis," Marsh explained. "There I saw you and fell in love. The same work brought me to Chicago, soon after you arrived here, and though you did not know me, probably not even by sight, I was there, watching over you, and worshipping, day by day. Perhaps a week is too short a time for you to begin to care, but I had hoped that you would." "I do care," she half whispered, "but I did not know that you thought so much of me. I have often longed for a real home myself. You know my own home was never really a happy one. For years my mother was sickly and nervous, and it was I who incurred all the household responsibilities. It has been years since I had the care and companionship that most girls receive from a mother. My father always provided liberally for us, but he was seldom at home." "Then we will start a real home together?" he pleaded. "Yes," she whispered. The sun sank out of sight, and the twilight folded them in friendly seclusion as Marsh took her in his arms. End of Chapter 23. End of The Sheridan Road Mystery by Paul and Mabel Thorne.